I'm going to be using the Poetic Edda, taking a few... Hi, Levi. Okay. Hi. Out of the camera. Okay. Okay. Lay down. Not on me. Okay. That's good. Alright. Hi guys. So on my Instagram, I've been getting a lot of questions about the Norse Afterlife. Where do I go when I die? Will I go to Valhalla? So I thought I would address that. I'm not claiming to know everything. There's so much reading and so much researching for this faith, and it kind of feels like no matter how much time and research you put in, you're still finding out new things, and you'll never be able to put in enough time to learn it all. Or that's what it feels like for me anyway. So I decided that I would cover Valhalla, Sessrumnir, Helheim, Ranshall, and Nastrand. Don't come for me if I'm not pronouncing any of those names right, because I have never learned Norse language. I don't know exactly how you're supposed to pronounce the vowels. I'm just kind of winging it. I'm probably going to be butchering a lot of names. So let me know down in the comments if I pronounce something wrong, and maybe even share with me if you can how to pronounce it. I would love that. I'm using the Poetic Edda, and I'm using Jackson Crawford's translation of it. If you haven't heard of Jackson Crawford, he has a YouTube channel and I recommend you check it out. First up is Valhalla. So we know Valhalla is Odin's hall, where slain warriors go. But let's see what the Poetic Edda says about Valhalla. Reading this right from the Grim Nismal, a fifth land is Gladsheim, where gold bright wide Valhalla stands. That is where Odin chooses from the men killed by weapons every day. Valhalla is easily recognized if one comes to see it. The hall is held up by spear shafts. It's roofed by shields. Chainmail is on the benches. Valhalla is easily recognized if one comes to see it. A wolf hangs above the western door, and an eagle above him. Interesting. So that gives a really nice description of Valhalla. So now we're picturing the spear shafts holding up the halls, and the roof made from shields, and the chainmail laid out on the benches. And you can really just get a picture in your mind of this hall that's really made for warriors. And it's said that when you go to Valhalla, you fight every day, and then you come back alive and you feast and drink with your brothers, and then the next day you fight again, and so forth. Interesting. Alright, so that's that for Valhalla. Next we have Sessrumnir, or Freya's Hall in Folkvang. I am going to read from the same excerpt out of the Poetic Edda, the Grim Nismal. Freya rules in the ninth land, Folkvang. That is where she arranges the seats. She chooses half the dead who die in battle, and Odin takes the other half. So it sounds like warriors also go to Folkvang, to Freya's Hall. So maybe ladies first, Freya gets the first pick of the warriors who fall in battle. I guess that's open to interpretation here, because honestly, Freya's Hall, Folkvang, or Sessrumnir is not really mentioned a lot. If you haven't found out by now, there's a lot of unanswered, unexplained questions regarding this faith. To me, I feel like that leaves things open to interpretation. And that's what I like so much about this religion. You can really personalize it. So next up on the list is Helheim, or Hell's Hall. There wasn't much in the Poetic Edda about Hel or Helheim. There is a passage in the Grimness Mall about Hel being beneath the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree. Beneath the tree, Yggdrasil, are 3 roots, which grows in 3 directions. Hel is beneath one, Jotunheim beneath another, and Midgard is beneath the third. So we know in relativity to Yggdrasil that Hel is beneath the roots. So we get that from that one little statement there. Next is an excerpt from Baldurs Dreams, which is again in the Poetic Edda. This is a story about Odin traveling to Hel to find a witch who can tell him what's going to happen to his son Baldur, who's been having all these bad dreams. So this reads, Odin stood up, that father of gods, and he saddled his horse, Sleipnir. Then he rode down to Hel, till he saw the dog of Hel. The dog had a bloody chest, and barked a long time as Odin passed. Odin rode on. The stones of the road rattled, till he came to the high house of Hel. Then Odin rode east of the door to Hel, and there he found the grave of a witch, and then the battle god spoke a spell, till her corpse was forced to rise, and then spoke. So that kind of gives a description of, I mean, it's not great. It's actually not really mentioned a lot in the Poetic Edda. A lot more things, I would say, are mentioned and described more in detail in the Prose Edda. That book I do not own. I might own it someday, I don't now. If you don't know, the Prose Edda is written by Snorri Sturluson, who was a Christian. He was a Christian monk. So we're not sure if the Prose Edda was swayed a little bit with Christian influence. It might not be at all accurate. And one day I will get that book because information is information. And like I said, there's not a lot on this faith. So the more the merrier. Anyway, next up is Ran, or Ran's Hall, Underneath the Sea. Poems about heroes. The poem of Helgi, son of Hjorvarth. In here, we get a little bit about Ran. And again, there's not much in the Poetic Edda about Ran, but we have a little bit that we can interpret and find more information in another source somewhere else. So here it reads, Witch, you've been here, by the king's ships, you've waited, in the fjord's mouth, you are meaning to give the king's men to Ran, if their spears didn't kill you first. So this is a poem about a bad king, King Hjorvath. Don't come for me on these terrible pronunciations. I'm not Norse, I'm not Icelandic, I'm just not. And then if you come back to the glossary of names in the back of the book, you can find Ran, and she's known as the goddess of shipwrecks. So she's known to pull men who get in shipwrecks down beneath the sea to her hall, and that's where Men go who die at sea. Viking sailors. And lastly, we have Nastrand. Nastrand, where Nidhogg lives, or where he goes. Völuspá, the prophecy of Ragnarok. Völuspá, literally, the witch's prophecy, is told through the person of a deceased witch or soothsayer, Volva, awakened by the god Odin and interviewed for information on the beginning and the end of the world. This reads, I saw a hall that stood far from the sun, on the beaches of corpses. The doors face north. Drops of poison fall through the roof. Its walls are encircled by serpents. I saw oathbreakers waiting in those thick streams, and murderers, and those who seduce others' lovers. There, Nidhogg sucks the corpses of the fallen, snaps them in his jaws. Have you heard enough yet, Allfather? So it sounds like murderers, criminals, adulterers, and oathbreakers go to the shores of Nastrand, where Nidhogg chews on their corpses and snaps them in his jaws. Well, that is what I know about the Norse afterlives, and that is what I have to share with you today. So I'm going to relax, make some tea, and keep reading. The Poetic Edda is packed with so much information. There's that glossary in the back that explains more. Like if you go back and you look up Nidhogg, it's a huge dragon that constantly chews at the roots of Yggdrasil and survives Ragnarok. The glossary of names gives even more information. If you don't own the Poetic Edda yet, I would really suggest picking that up, because this is basically the Norse Bible, I would say. It gives the story of creation, it gives the stories of the afterlives, the gods, and when there's something in here that you've gotten a tiny amount of information on and you want to learn more, you have the internet for resources. There are multiple other works of literature out there. Keep watching YouTube videos, keep reading your own books, keep looking up information on the internet, keep researching this faith, and all this information will only bring you closer to the gods. I hope you enjoyed my video about the afterlives in Norse mythology, and I'll see you next week for another one. Thank you. Bye.